and welcome to another edition of A Live in Tax. Today, we have a special guest, a senior colleague, in the person of Dr. Mrs. Titi Fowokan. So, Dr. Mrs. Titi Fowokan, you are welcome to another edition of A Live in Tax. Thank you for coming around, ma. We really appreciate you for coming, for giving
Thank
us,
you, Tunji.
for sparing your time.
Nice being with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ma. Okay, Ma, we would like to, know how you got started in tax, how you started with taxation. Just tell us, how you started.
Okay, thank you for that. I've been in tax for over 30 years. I'll put it
Okay.
that way. I started my career sometimes April 1st, 1994 with Pricewaterhouse. I joined the firm as an audit assistant then, because I know everything has changed now. They don't use assistant anymore like before. As an audit assistant, and I started going through the ranks. Along the line, I chose to know something different from audit. Account, let me do something different, and I chose tax. And then I was given opportunity. So when we have any audit engagement, I handle the tax aspect of the work. I'll do the tax work. I'll give it to the tax senior or tax manager. Then we actually don't have staff that are direct in tax department. All of us coming through audit. Then we have a tax manager who will review. We work with the tax manager as staff. So we give it to the tax manager. She will review. She will sign off, and then I develop that interest. And I grew the ranks. So as of 2001, I showed keen interest because I was having 25% of my time as audit, as tax, 75% as audit. So by the time I
Mm.
grew through the ladder and I was to be promoted into a manager. So in 2001, I was the first to be promoted from an audit senior to a tax manager because I developed that skill. And since then, I've been doing tax. I've never regretted doing tax, and I'm still doing tax. And I believe that I can develop more skills, but I want to grow as much as I can in becoming this developing this field and being an expert that I am, and I want to do more. No, you don't stop learning. Learning continues.
Yeah.
I don't think
Yes,
I've
ma.
known everything. There are different aspects of tax. I don't see myself knowing every aspect, but I can say
Mm.
so far, in most parts of my year, I've been doing tax. And from PwC, I moved out. I went to Deloitte to handle tax advisory services for the firm. And before I left Deloitte, I went to the industry. Having done practice for 11 years in PwC, 3.5 years in Deloitte, I felt, let me see what's happening in the industry. So I took on the group tax manager for Owando PLC, where I have the PLC and the subsidiaries under my purview for tax department. There was no tax department in quotes, so I had to build up that department, make sure that we have staff that are called tax staff. Now, one thing that happened while I was in PwC was having become the tax manager, I was given the responsibility to recruit direct graduates
Yeah.
into the tax department of PwC, groom them, train them, and make sure that they make a career in tax. I'm happy to
Mm.
say that that was done successfully. Partners that are tax partners in PwC today, some of them passed through that training of recruiting of graduates, training them. I was even given the challenge to train directors, train partners. Can imagine what it means. Go and look for training for partners. But it's all interesting when you now have to be giving training to your leaders, to your bosses. But it was fun. And within West Africa, when I joined Deloitte, I was also involved in training. So I was in charge of
Okay.
Deloitte West and Central Africa training. We had a series of trainings. I think there was a time we had training in, I think we were in Gambia for some training sometime. We went to different countries and I was part of it. And today, some of the people that are partners in Deloitte were also people that passed through that my training and being their staff manager. So I can
Oh,
say My training as a tax person is also involved me also training other people to be tax experts, and also acted as training manager, staff manager in the two places where I train. So I must give it to PwC for 11 years of training me, and I give it to Deloitte for 3.5 years of also exposing me to that leadership role, where I was able to also impart knowledge on others and form a formidable team before I left. Tax advisory team we set up. Then I also handle global employer services, which is formerly they call it international assignment service for expatriate mobility management during that time. And to the glory of God, all those things are still speaking for itself, being developed. And I'm happy that I have people that took the baton. They are still developing it. They're in the firms and they can actually see the success story that is coming up. So I think in my journey as a tax person, I've tried to influence lives positively, and I've tried to also build build skills, build lives, influence them. And currently, I'm looking at building the upcoming generation, the Gen Z. So that's my new catchment area now. Trying to look at students who are showing interest in tax and encourage them to take it as a profession, and as much as possible support them in my own little way to groom their technical expertise.
Okay, thank you very much, Ma. It's one of the reasons why we have you on this show so that you can inspire, some of these Gen Z and especially the ladies,
Hello, Tunji.
the female. Hello, can you hear me,
Hello.
Ma? Yes, can you hear me? I can hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear
I
me?
wasn't hearing you. Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay, I said it's one of the reasons why we have you on this show. You can inspire some of these Gen Z who are interested in taxation, for the future generation. And we are happy to have you here. Your career path has been a very, very, it's full of inspiration. And I think a lot of people listening to this should also learn from that, especially ladies who are just, getting started. So as a tax professional working in an organization currently, man, can you share, how your experience has been like? I'm sure it's going to be a total different thing now that you're in the industry compared to where you are at PwC or Deloitte.
Um, let me just say that tax experience will always be tax experience. What the difference will be maybe the culture, the difference will be the environment, and the difference will be the challenges. So for
Mm,
me, being in the industry gives me an opportunity to understand what goes on in the mind of a businessman when I was a consultant. When you're a consultant, you go to them, they tell you, I want to do this, and you're telling them, you need to do this, you need to do that. It's like the businessman wants paracetamol, but you are giving them strong analgesic, and they will not understand. But
yeah,
now that I'm in the industry, I can tell you now that if I get a call and this is what is said, the best I do is to understand what is going on in their mind. Because the
mm,
businessman wants to keep his business, he wants to do it right, he wants to be in business continuously, and he wants to save costs, he wants to
exactly.
maximize profit, he wants to maximize shareholders' value. So if you understand that, then you start to look at how does your work fit in into that objective. And that comes from tax planning, that comes for tax cost management, that comes for tax compliance management, that comes from tax risk management. You
Exactly.
must be able to understand how all this affects the business and how best you can support. Now, tax is actually a low value adding the way people see it, but it's actually high value adding because nobody sees you at the forefront. You're not in sales. Everybody sees the salesman and sees the one bringing money. But when the salesman is doing his marketing, there's VAT that will be paid. And you need to also be careful that you understand how VAT should be done so that you are not paying out what you should not pay out. You're not incurring penalty. So the salesman is the person they see. They didn't see you, that you are planning behind. Now, you are not in treasury. Nobody knows you are there. But the treasury man is to go and look for money, fund management. But for fund management, there's also tax in it. You might
Of
look at
course.
which type of
Of course.
fund can I place such that I won't have withholding tax on the interest. Which type of fund can I
Yeah.
place that such that it is fully exempted, the interest is fully exempted. You understand what I'm saying? So
Yes,
that
yes, I
is
do.
the value you bring in the industry that people don't see. Now, we have even moved away from that alone to now say, how best can you structure contracts so that at the end of the day, there are no tax implications when you have tax audits? And that's also
Mm,
another value. But people will only see the lawyer, they won't see the tax person. So you as a
exactly.
tax person give the lawyer support to do a contract that meets the need of the business and also would stand the test of the taxman. You can see. So we are behind the scene, but we're adding value. So much value. Then you come to shareholders. Shareholders are the ones that come to AGM and raise their hand. They don't see you, they see them. But you are also looking at how best can dividend be paid to them in such a way that the company is not incurring excess dividend tax and all those things, and you would not be the one advising. But what the shareholder gets is their dividend. They don't know who has done any planning behind. So that's the beauty about industry. Now, new things are happening, tax policy. You are there telling the business, please, something new has happened in the country. Don't do this. The sins you've committed before, go and sin no more. Change your ways. Nobody sees you. They only see the letter you bring and say, we have to pay income tax. You have to pay this. But they don't know that you have already looked at it and said, for us to be able to pay this level of income tax, we must put a transaction like this. We must describe it like this. We must have this documentation. We must have that. Oh, we want to go into the new business area. How do we do it? Now, you are the one that will say, hang on, what is the business you want to do? Which industry? What are the tax reliefs? What are the tax incentives? What are the do's and the don'ts of that industry as relates to tax? And you tell them, don't do this. But if you do this, you have option one, two, three, four. In order of ranking, when I look at the tax implication, business consideration, this is the one that rank best. So go for this, and this is what you should put in place to ensure this is done. Nobody sees you, they only see the corporate finance person. So you are behind the scene, you are giving value. And that is where tax works in the industry.
Okay. Thank you so much for enlightening our audience on the importance of a taxman, because a lot of people, when they see a taxman, they believe you are bringing trouble for them, not knowing that you are adding value from behind the scene. So, Ma, with I know you've actually, spoken a lot about, you talk about a lot of things with respect to shareholders, all the stakeholders and all that. Throughout your career, what is the common misconception, that you've encountered regarding taxes, and how did you address them with your colleagues or stakeholders and other stakeholders?
Common encounter. Are you an agent of the taxman?
That's the usual question. Are you with us or you're against us?
And it is understood because you are coming from the point of compliance. The cost of
Yes.
compliance is minimal compared to the cost of non-compliance. I always tell people that it takes you less effort to comply and much effort to clear your non-compliance because it comes with penalty, with interest, with this, with that, with you have an audit, everything is clean. You don't know what you've done for yourself by being compliant. But when you have an
Mm.
audit and there are issues and you go back and forth, you raise assessments, at the end of the day, you disagree with each other, they raise NORA, you go to court, da 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 da. You are not sleeping, they are not sleeping. So why do you give yourself that stress? Why don't you just get your compliance right and be able to sleep well and dream good dreams rather than dreaming that the tax man is coming after you? So it's
Exactly.
always good. That's one thing. People just don't, they will say, look, what is government doing with the money? And it is not only on the individual side, it's also on the corporate side. Oh, we do the road ourselves, we do this. So what we now tell them, oh, fine, we do all these things ourselves. Okay, let's see if we do this road, can we get anything in the law that can help us to at least cushion the effect? The road we have our
Yes.
business. We do more, we pay more tax. So what can we get as a gain, as in a relief? Let's check for that. And that's where we start looking into the law. What can we do? What's the documentation required? And everything like that. And once you're able to get something that's convincing, the owners of the business and your bosses will say, okay, fine. We are not losing everything anyway. We are getting something. On the individual side, you are it may be difficult because government needs to be held accountable. But at times you have to also try to tell yourself that if I don't do it right and I'm being punished, is it government that is suffering the punishment? It is me. So most
Of course.
times we also try to tell ourselves this. Let's do it right so that we can sleep well. You know, when I tell you sleep well, I mean it. I mean sleep well. I'm not talking about just sleep well. I mean you sleep well. So we need to be able to have. So these are things that I won't lie to you. A tax problem can keep you awake for nights, especially if you are the type that doesn't like things to be left on your table. You are the type that doesn't like people to label you with non-compliance or say that you are evading tax, or you will just feel like, what can I do to get rid of this thing? And you know, Nigeria is even not better now because of the way there's pressure on the economy. Every state wants to collect taxes, there's multiplicity
Yeah.
of taxes, there's levy, there's this, there's that. So you find yourself in a situation whereby you are in like 4, 5 states, and those states want to collect, and you look at the revenue, it's not getting anywhere. And they don't want to care. Their own is we want to collect. How do you now manage this? You don't have the muscle to go to court to challenge them. What do? You start negotiating. Somebody start telling you to do something under the carpet. And you look at your integrity, you look at the ethical values of your profession, you are stopped. The only thing you can do is to go on your knees as a woman or a man and pray to God to have mercy on you and give you favor. So that when you beg and say, please, let's this thing not be, let's clear this thing. This is the law. Let's go by the law. Let's do it right. They will answer you. Otherwise, you keep having sleepless nights and praying. So I believe that this misconception about what's government doing, we don't do it right, should be something that we need to live out of, because the punishment of not doing right still comes to you, and it's more painful. Trying to clear it is more painful. So let's quickly do it right and move on and have our life to ourselves and sleep well. And that's what I tell everybody. It's not easy. Oh. Campaigning that campaign to say let's do it right is not easy. It's not
I
easy. The
understand
question is, are you for us or against us?
that.
You know,
Exactly.
or you get,
Exactly.
my tax is too high. Just reduce it, and I can't reduce your tax. There's a law.
Of
So how
course.
will I reduce your tax when there's a law
But you
that
must
guides
always
how
have
your
a
taxes
basis.
are calculated? There must be a base. So those are
Yes.
things that happen anytime you find yourself and you're like, how do I manage this situation? But to the glory of God, we've been having to talk to each other. People are understanding better. And I always use some states to boast. I use Lagos State. They may not be there, oh, but I want to say that people are seeing taxpayers' money working and they are
Yes.
appreciative of it and they are willing to understand with me. But even if you don't want to understand with me, you cannot get land without having your tax clearance. You even have to even register. They will be telling you go and bring tax clearance. To travel abroad,
Exactly.
go and bring tax clearance. So you have to be my friend. Otherwise, you will not be
Definitely.
able to move to the next stage. So those are some of the things that
Definitely.
are happening, and I think people are taking it positively. And we're also doing a lot of enlightenment and education to people. Fine, government has not done its part, but please don't join them to do bad things. Let's do it right so that tomorrow we can challenge and say, I have been doing it right all the while. I have the guts to challenge. But if I'm not doing it right, we are in the same shoe. Who is going to challenge you? We all be in the same shoe. And we also continue the way we are continuing. So I think that misconception about, well, what are they use? We don't have to do it the right thing. Let's just do it anyhow. Needs to start changing. And for the people that are close to me, I do tell them and I do try to influence them. Let's do the right thing because two wrongs never make a right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for that insightful comment. So, Mark, okay, what strategies have you found most effective in minimizing tax exposures and optimizing tax efficiency? What strategies have you found,
Okay.
most effective?
Most effective. See, there is no any strategy that you do that is outside the law is not an effective strategy.
Mm,
But strategies that you do, that you first of all look into the law, are there tax credits? How do they
mm,
apply to me? Are there deductions that are allowed for taxes? How do I
mhm.
maximize those deductions such that I don't get to be doesn't get to be disallowed and then I pay maximum taxes? Are there structuring of transactions of the law and it will still give me a good tax position? Then I'll be looking at that. Or I'm saying um, we need to keep on looking at, and we do look at, and it's been helping. I mentioned before, I talked about contract structuring. A lot of
Yes.
times for withholding tax and VAT, we don't look at contracts very well. We just structure them. And for Nigeria, because we have different, like for instance, we have free zone, we have pioneer, we have this one, we have that one. If you don't understand how each of these are affected, then you might not get your strategy right. And you end up paying additional taxes, which you would have been able to avoid or eliminate as much as possible. So, in terms of industry specific strategy, it depends on the industry. If it's in
Okay.
oil and gas, you have to look at, for instance, PIA now. You have so many regulatory requirements in PIA. I need to understand those regulatory requirements. How does it affect the type of business? Am I in downstream? Am I in midstream? Am I in upstream? Those are the things you look at. Now there are cost implications. Now you have to pay 5% charges for under PIA. Some wholesaler will pay when you are selling a petroleum product. You must understand how does it apply. If it is to the wholesaler, am I an wholesaler or I'm a distributor? Those are questions. So when it comes to tax strategies, there is not one size fits all. You need to understand where you operate, who your customers are, who you deal with, what your transaction looks like, what's available for you in the laws. That's where you start your financial statement, your recording of transactions, all aligned to what you want to achieve, and that is having a cost.
Mm. Okay.
Look at the law, look at your process, look at your system, put everything together and let them align. And then you can now say, yes, I can defend what I have. That's the best strategy one can ever think of. And it works for any industry.
Okay. Thank you so much for that insightful comment. Okay, Ma. So now, since 2019, there has been a lot of reviews, updated tax law, finance acts, this order have been signed here and there. So how do you, stay current with these evolving tax laws and regulations? And what measure do you take to ensure compliance, and mitigate potential risk? How do you stay, up to date with this, with all these current laws that is happening? At least since 2019, we have Finance Act 2019, 2020, 2021, 2023. And I'm sure with the current presidential fiscal reform, we should be expecting more.
Yeah. Now, I want to borrow the language in Nigeria. We used to say change begins with me. I guess that was some time ago when they were trying to advocate for a better Nigeria. They said change begins with me. I will say that staying current begins with me.
Mm.
And I'll tell you why. If I'm not the type that wants to know what is going on,
Yes,
let everything be current, I would not know. So
exactly.
I try as much as possible to put my ears on the ground, make sure I'm glued to my information area. Thank God for Google.com anyway. Once something comes out, you get it in the news, you go on Google, you see the newspaper, you see the headlines. So I look for headlines that attract. Considering that I'm a member of the Chartered of Taxation of Nigeria, there are opportunities, training opportunities are there. So I keep myself abreast. I do a lot of reading on my own, studying on my own. If I see an area that has come up, new policy comes up, I must know what it means. And
Yeah.
for me, I have a team that I've built up in the office. I would tell them, I'll share the thing to them. A new this thing has come. You go and do tax update for me. What does it talk about? Why she's doing it or he's doing it? I'm also reading it up. So when it comes, it won't tell me what is not there. So I have to give myself to reading. I have to give myself to um, knowing, putting my heads on ground as to what is going on, and then knowing the details. And when I see this, I go to it's like the Holy Book says, if well, it says if you see uh, if they tell you something, go back and check. For
Yes.
me as a Christian, if anybody tells me something in the church, you must tell me the Bible verse. I will read it. Did I see it there? Okay, I can believe you. So, and that is the same thing with to keep myself abreast. I make sure that the law is the tax laws are not far from me. both in electronic copy and in hard copy. I make sure that I go online and I see people's views about those things. And I
Mm.
think through it and see whether, not every view is correct interpretation.
Of course, yes, ma'am. I
And
do
I would
agree.
now sit back and say, put myself in the position of a businessman. If this thing affects a business, how would they react to it?
Mm.
Unfortunately, because I also get my organization to belong to some bodies like NECA, MAN, and the likes, they also share the business side of it. And that makes me to come back and say, is this amendment to the law really, really helping us as a
Mm.
business? And as a consultant, I look at end to end. The law says this. What was the position before this amendment? What changed? And what will be the implication? And immediately information must go out to those who needs to know that things have changed. I'm a type of person that I like to pass knowledge. So I make sure that I have a time with my team and I also pass it to the general staff, as many as are concerned in respect to whatever comes out. So it's more of education, it's more of seminars, it's more of workshops, it's more of being on top of what is happening and sitting down to understand what I do, what is affecting me, what I need to help the company with, and advise everybody. And that makes me to stay up and have, you say, I know my onions.
Yes.
That's how
Yes.
we put it now. I need to know what I need. I have my tools, and my tools are the laws, my tools are the regulations, my tools are the publication, the public notices. Those are my tools. And I look at all that, align them, and I advise the government, advise my management, advise my staff, advise my colleagues, and I tell them, friends, let's go this way. As long as we're on this way, we're on the right. And when it is time to fight for my rights, I know my taxpayers' rights
Yes. Yes.
because that's also important.
Of course.
I know where my right stops, where it starts, and where it stops. So that even when the taxman is telling me something, I can say, that your right finish there. My own right starts here. And then we can have it together. So these are things
Okay.
that kids want to be on top of what is happening.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ma. So, Ma, can you also share a memorable or challenging experience you have had while working as a tax professional, either in Deloitte, PwC, Oando, or currently at Dangote? A
There will
memorable,
always
challenging
be a
experience.
memorable there will always be a memorable, challenging experience if you are in tax. I don't know about other profession. If you
Of
don't
course,
have a
there is.
memorable experience from people telling you we don't want to pay tax, tell us how not to pay. You will have a memory experience from taxman telling you you've done the wrong thing, we are going to punish you. So you must always have. I'll just take a few of that. I have a lot. Uh, what made me to be an advocate of voluntary compliance was my previous experiences. Uh, when you get into an organization and they are telling you, don't worry, everything is okay, our tax system is okay, we are putting our records, and you're like, are you sure? So coming from practice to industry requires that I won't see that way of things are done. Working with a PwC, everything is good, well aligned, there are processes, there are systems, you know, and we just continue to work. But when you come to industry, especially where you have to set up the department, because I had to set up the tax department in Oando. I came in, I was the only person, and then I had to put some things in place. Then we had to do a review of past years. How well have we done? What are the things outstanding? We looked at everything, and I felt, we need to do cleanup. So we had to start the cleanup. And people will say when you go and report yourself to the taxman, you are making a mistake. It could be
Exactly.
true, but at times, well, they should not see it in that light. So we try to do some cleanup. So somebody just will look at it and say, your tax last year was 2 naira. This year is now 6 naira. Something is hidden. We are going to do back duty investigation. Ah, what do you do? Where do you start from? You want to do a good girl. And I don't think I should, because you are going to give me back this investigation, I should not do the right thing. So I've had an
Of course.
experience where trying to do the right thing cost back duty investigation that landed me in hospital.
Wow.
And why?
Wow.
Because the rep is I wasn't there. the records are not that are not there. We had to start getting into the archives, getting documents out. So the pressure was so much, and you have a deadline to finish this work. So with that pressure and the deadline, I was under so much pressure. I was tensed up and I fell sick. So having
Wow.
fallen sick, I have to close out on the audit. They are calling, they're giving you a deadline, and you know the way they write you now. You know, taxman, they will write you and
Yes.
say, you,
Exactly.
you give me, you don't come. I said, what do I do? Do you know what I did? I snapped the drip in my hand. The drip. I snapped the drip and I sent it to my staff and I said, please show them that I'm in the hospital. And as long as I'm in the hospital, I can't do anything. And that was when I got sympathy. Is it empathy or what now? They now empathized with me and said, okay, let's relax and allow her to get back to her feet. It's a it's not an experience I pray for anybody to have, but it's something that at the end of the day, I can tell you that after the cleanup, we everything was going on. I can easily say, okay, come, you want to come for holiday? Yeah, come. This. Oh, yeah, come. 2 days, 3 days, you're done. You can go. So it was actually a memorable, like you say, experience that was really challenging for me, but it has actually helped me to learn how to manage people, manage external stakeholders, and also manage
Yeah.
internal stakeholders, manage myself, better. Though we still go through that at every point in time, but it's I'm better informed, I'm better uh, packaged now. You have to continue to package yourself as you learn new things.
Yeah.
So that was an experience, and an experience in practice was when you give an advice to a client and you did not put your caveat and you did not do all your checks, and then the client takes that advice and something goes wrong. You know what that
Exactly.
means?
Of
You
course.
are either
Of-
going to be facing disciplinary or some way of making good the loss or whatever the
Yeah.
client has. So I had this experience, and I think I gave an advice on something. I didn't really make sure that the client understands well how to implement, and they
Mm.
went ahead, they did the implementation. There was a problem, and their tax manager, the white guy, called me and was lambasting me, and I was like, "But this man, I didn't tell you to do what you did." But should have put the caveat in those things properly. Though we went through reviews anyway. I won't say we didn't go through reviews. The caveat was there. But clients will not look at the caveat. They will just go straight and implement the thing that you told them to
Yeah.
implement
Yeah.
without even coming back to you. They think they don't want to pay you. So in not paying you, they'll go and do it themselves. And when they have a problem, they start running around. So this is an experience, but it taught me a lot. Because if I had taken my time to follow through and say, fine, you want to do it yourself, let me even be sure that you understand what you want to do yourself and then walk
Mm.
them through. Not looking at the fact that they may not want to pay me fees for that additional effort. Is relationship I'm building by doing that. I'll tell you one also. I had a client I was working on, and they have to meet a deadline. And this client called me on Friday by 10 p.m. that I should be in their office on Saturday by 7 a.m.
Wow.
And I said, 10 p.m., 7 a.m. How do I do it? To be sincere with you, I got to their office at 6:30.
Mm.
And the client was like, you made it. I said, my client is king. I've got to be there. And we had that meeting from that 7 to like around 2. And we finished,
Wow.
and they were like, no, this is relationship. And that has been in me since then. That if I really want to do something and you give me an appointment, I won't sleep until I make sure that I'm with you. In fact, at times I tell myself, I said, which one is my headache in all these things now? But it's not an headache. It's a means of even me developing myself. I'm even using it to develop myself when I
Of
do some
course.
of these things. And that
Mm.
that has been that has developed me anyway, and it's been helping me.
Yeah, especially with respect to discipline. I think you're telling
Yeah,
your clients, your colleagues that yes, you have to be very disciplined. Thank you so much for that.
yeah.
So what advice do you offer junior colleagues, business owners regarding, tax implications, strategic planning when it comes to maybe some
Well,
of these new? Laws.
My, my advice to them is number one, be good in what you're doing. Be good in what you're doing. And I'll take it away from being good. Know your onions, know your facts, know your tools. For the top
Mm.
work we do for tax work, we sell our brain. We sell our
Yes.
brain. I will give it for sure. We sell our brain. We think for the business, we think for the client. So we must know what we are into. You must know what you are into. Then they must also not be far from the tool, which is the tax law. You see, one thing is
Yeah.
for you to read all the other write-ups people do. You must go back and check whether those write-ups really interpret what the law says. So you are not basing what you do on a wrong premise. And you must have that professional etiquette, time promptness, timeliness. Your yes is your yes. You don't promise what you cannot deliver. You know your strength is critical. And then when you're dealing with any case, have a good understanding of the background information. Let them
Mm.
not give you the tip and you don't know the roots, because the problem may be from the roots, and if you don't fix it from the roots and you just fix the tip, it will reset again, and your advice will be jettisoned and it will be as if you don't know your work. So what I advise them is, number one, know the tax laws. Number two, have connection, have mentors, be sure that you have good networks. I don't know everything. I still call friends. If you have this problem, how will you deal with it? They will tell me their experience.
Yeah.
I'll keep it on one hand. I call another person. I will say, okay, they'll share what their experience is. I keep it on another hand. And I keep learning. You have to continue to learn. Learning does not finish. Learn new things.
Mhm.
I used to tell myself that every year I want to add one new thing to myself. And so people be wondering, I have PhD, I have this one. I just decided that this year I don't want to do anything that would give me too much stress. I don't want to stress my brain. I want to understand the fiscal policy that is changing in Nigeria. Otherwise, I would have told you that maybe I'm doing another course. I did my LLM in international business law because I want to know what the lawyer thinks about international businesses. And that's what took me into LLM and Masters in International Business Law from a UK university. So I have also my PhD in accounting. So these are set for knowledge. So you need to, if you don't, you see, Nemo that God none abet.
So
You don't,
you
you
should be
can't give what you
expecting your
don't have.
professorship too. You should be expecting your
You can't give
professorship
what you
too.
don't have. You can't give what you don't have. You can't give what you don't have. So you need to be sure that you have what it takes to deliver and build yourself. Create a niche for yourself. I do understand every aspect of tax, but I took interest in international tax. So I had a book on it, which I'm trying to do a new edition, but time has not permitted me. There's work in progress. Time has not permitted me.
Okay.
But I just want you to know that for tax, we have different aspects. There's tax advisory, there's tax compliance, there's tax what else again? You can go into tax policy, different aspects.
Yes.
So you
Transfer
can just
pricing.
develop to say, I want to, yeah, international tax, transfer pricing. In fact, transfer pricing is a bit under international tax. So
Yes.
you just need to just develop your skills. Have the general skills and then have the one you want to develop yourself in. And for your information, I don't need to have a big office to give tax advisory. I only need to be in my small office, huh? My small office with my laptop, and then I'll be reading and then giving advisory. I can
Of
advise
course.
my boss, not even
Even
getting out of
virtually,
my office. Now that we
even
have
virtually,
google.com.
even
Yes.
virtually, you can
And then I
provide
have a
advice
meeting.
virtually.
So if I think there's even better, technology has made our life better. And then above all,
Exactly.
learn to know how to use technology. I'm yeah. I now remember now, Tunji. My new area is to develop tax technology. I'm learning how to develop that. That's the new thing I want to do for myself.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. So, Ma, you mentioned tax planning initially when we started this conversation. So, how do you approach tax planning and risk management to align with organization financial goals and their objectives? So, how do you approach tax planning and risk management to align with organization goals? An
You need to
objective.
first of all understand. You need to first of all understand the organizational goals and objectives. When you understand the broader goals, when organizational goals are the corporate level, broken
Yeah.
down into the specific with divisional level, then you come to the tactical level, and then you now break it down to the processes and the likes come to the small bit.
Yeah.
So first of all, you need to understand the organizational goal. If you are, let's say for instance, you're starting with an organization that is just started, it's just commencing, their goal is how to stabilize and make profit and break even before they even start talking of making profit. Because when you start, you may not start and be getting that big, big, big money. You have
Yeah.
cost, you have this. So how to minimize your cost and be able to make sure that you raise your head above the water. So you must understand the organizational goal. Now, when you get to a big organization, you now need to start understanding: are they looking into new areas? What is in the mind of the owner of the business? Profit maximization, cost reduction, and the likes. Tax risk, you cannot afford to incur penalties. Zero tolerance for failure to file return, zero tolerance for penalty and interest. So once you know these are what is your target, then you start to make sure that you have processes to address them and meet. For instance, when you talk of tax risk, you have to file returns on the 21st, VAT due 21st day of the month. And you don't have processes to ensure that by the 15th day of the month, you have done your reviews. By the latest 18th day of the month, you are ready to be processing your payment. For, unfortunately, if 18th fall on a weekend or 21st fall on a weekend, you must
Of
process it
course.
before that weekend. So
Exactly.
one of the things I do is to have a plan, have a process in place, communicated to everybody, and have timeline. So follow the timeline, and then everybody must ensure they comply with that timeline. So that's a way to manage your non-compliance risk. Because if you meet the timelines, you have penalty. Tax planning risk, you must understand what you are planning. You don't put something on nothing. And you just need to know you cannot be basing your planning on no law. No, you can't just say you want to plan and then you're just thinking from the blues. No, you must,
Uh,
what section of the law supports this planning you want to do. And don't be aggressive. Aggressive tax planning can put you into trouble, and those are the things that helps you to manage your tax risk. Identify the risk. You start with your risk identification. You assess it. After assessing it, you now look at your mitigation strategies. And after putting your mitigation strategies in place, you look at monitoring it and ensuring that you evaluate it at every point in time to be sure it meets the need for which you are putting it in place. And that's just a summary of how to walk through your tax risk management.
okay. So another question we have for you, Ma, is I know that a lot of companies have been facing tax audits. People have this. You know, do you want to or what on how to manage the situation effectively?
Okay, what I always tell people is don't wait for you to be beaten before you do the right thing. And I've always tried as much as possible. Even my consultants at times, I tell them I don't want to give you headache. Let me know what I need to do to make your life easy. And let me now put processes in place to make your life easy. We need to first
So
of all know the
proactive
client.
proactiveness is very
Pro-
important. You need to be
yes,
proactive.
we have to be proactive because thank God that I have an understanding of tax. So before even they come for audit, I would have said, okay, guys, let's put this in place. Let's put this in place. Let's put this in place. So those things would have been there. Fine, there may be some omissions, genuine omissions, not as in voluntarily deciding not to do some things, which I expect on the other side, that understanding will be there. There may be genuine
Mm.
omissions, and there may be some things that are beyond you. For instance, the foreign exchange issue in the country has caused a lot of problem for people, for
Yeah.
companies. It's beyond you. So whatever effect that has on your transaction, you expect that at least whoever is reviewing you should have a second thought about what the economy has done to everybody. So proactive measure, make sure you have your documentation because you see tax problems come from documentation. Make sure your
Yeah.
documentation is right. From the conception of a transaction. Not, I didn't say inception.
Of
Conception,
course.
when you are thinking about it, be
As a
thinking about
transaction,
the
yes.
requirements. When you now
Mm.
start it, which is the starting the initiation of that transaction, be putting those requirements on the side. When you finish, tidy them up, keep them in safe custody, documents to support what you have done. When you
Mm.
are posting or somebody is doing the accounting, make sure they do it properly. When they are
Exactly.
putting narration, make sure they do the proper narration. When they are putting it in the system, make sure they put the proper way. Proper account is debited, proper description is put, proper account is credited. When they are generating report, make sure they are generating the right report. And when somebody is approving, make sure the person has done a full proof before they approve. These are the actions you need to take internally in the system before you now start talking about when they come for a review. If you do all this well, your transactions are foolproof, the documentation are in place, you do the right thing at the right time. When you have tax audit, you will not have headache. So
Mm.
unless it is something beyond your control, but you can actually control the processes that you put in place. You may not be able to control some other people who don't understand why you said they should do it the way they are doing it, but you educate them. Continue to educate before the event. I always tell people, don't wait for tax audit to come before we do the right thing. Just know
Yeah.
what to do and do it right. Doing the right thing is better than when you are forced to do it right. You understand? Do it right
Yes,
before
sir.
they come. So that when you do the right thing, you are in the right path and you can enjoy your life and say yes. We know when people say tax work is seamless, they'll say, ah, no, it's not easy. But anybody who has done the right, I know of a company who, whenever they have tax audit, they are always in refund because they always say,
Mm.
look, I don't want trouble. Let me just deduct anything deductible. And I'm like, even if it's not, no, I don't want trouble. And at the end of the day, by the time the tax man comes, they will calculate, they give them credit, but it takes time. They will still say, ah, no, you
Yes.
have over compliance, but it takes time. They will audit them, they will still find out that they still have that credit to claim, you know.
Mm.
So if you do it right and put yourself in the right position and have people that understand you and cooperate with you, you will not have problem doing a tax audit. And so consultants should see how best they can help their clients to put these things in place, do it right, advise them. At times we should not be fee driven. We should also be looking at the survival of the client in whatever we
Yeah.
are doing. Work with them. Small company, work with them to grow. Big companies, support them to survive so that they can continue to be sustainable and be in business. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. So just to wrap it up, Ma, just to wrap it up, we really appreciate your time. So reflecting on your career, what essential lessons have you learned that you would like to share with others working in tax roles, either as a consultant, you know, particularly regarding effective tax management and risk mitigation? From what you have mentioned, what essential lesson have you learned so far?
Okay. I think I've learned, I will start from the fact that risk management is not after you have committed the offense. It starts as early as you see yourself sitting in the desk of a tax person.
Mm.
Understand how your work is interrelated to other departments. Take out time to let others understand where you fit in and how best you can work together to ensure that you will not be the dumping ground because that's
Mm.
critical. Because if
Yeah.
others do everything and then they dump it for you, they've finished, they've forgotten. It is 5 years, 3 years, 2 years, taxman comes and you start chasing everybody. Build your database, have all
Okay.
the necessary documents, have a checklist of what you need to get every month, every year, so that when it comes to time, those things are there for you to quickly switch on. Thank God now that we don't have to be keeping hard copy documents and we can
Exactly.
store things in the cloud. As you do your monthly transaction taxes, get the supporting document, foolproof your withholding tax, look at your transactions for the year. Then your IT setup, be sure that from your IT setup, we can easily trace each transaction to your withholding tax schedule, to your VAT, and there can be a flow. Once there's an audit trail, your audit will be seamless. When it comes to the corporate tax side, you look to tax sensitive items, identify them. Have a checklist of what you're going to be checking on them. Keep that checklist and be monitoring it. Ask them, okay, at the end of the month, give me this, or quarterly. Keep it in your file if you are the one managing the tax centrally. But if you have people working with you, share the work, share the risk, share the headache, so that at the end of the day, you have a file that you can present and it's seamless. And you'll be ready for your, but when your bosses call you for information, definitely they expect you not to say every time, I'll get back to you. You must have first hand answer, which means before they call you should be able to say what could have gone on in their mind. Okay,
Yeah.
let me just prepare everything that they could ask me about, so that if I don't have enough information, I can go back to them, and that makes them to respect you as an advisor internally. Other vendors outside, you must also be able to let them understand what it takes to manage the tax risk, so that they will all be able to support you in succeeding as a tax person internally, and then you'll not be able to fail yourself. Let me put it that way. Because if they don't follow you properly and if they don't align with you, you may not get the best out of being in that seat. So I'll just want to tell them they should know who they are, they should study, they should always seek to learn more, they should not be tired of learning, they should learn, unlearn, and relearn. And then they should continue to build relationship that builds them also.
Okay. Thank you so much, Marv. We've have you've been very, very. This has really been very helpful. We thank you so much for your time. God bless you for sharing,
Thank you.
for sharing this an hour with us. And we've really, really
Thank
learned
you.
from you. And I believe that my audience have also, my subscribers have also learned a lot. And like you said, we have to keep learning, relearning, and then keep doing research. Now that you've mentioned tax technology, well, I think I also have to go and look at that tax technology, even though I've been reading, one or two things about it. And I think that is the way to go, now, especially in the international space. So we want to thank you so much, Ma, for joining us in this program. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you. And on behalf of the Taxmobile.Online team, we want to thank you for coming. Thank you so much and have a wonderful
Thank you. Thank you,
weekend.
Tunji. Thank you.
Thank you
Nice
so much.
being on your show. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you very
Bye
much, Ma.
bye.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.